Today, we're going to be breaking down the Gary Gensler article everybody's talking about. And we're going to find out the answer to this question. Can Gary Gensler survive crypto winter? And I guess that all depends on whether a lizard can hibernate or not. Let's get it. Welcome to BitBoy Crypto. My name is Ben. Today we're going to be talking about Gary Gensler. If you do not like this man who looks like a lizard, make sure to smash that like button. Number one thing you can do as a fan of this channel and to help crypto adoption. Also, guys, if you want a channel that isn't afraid to challenge people and goes head to head with supposedly the most powerful lizards in the world, then make sure to hit that subscribe button. So let's get into this article here, guys. By last March, things appeared to be going exceptionally well for Bankman-Fried, talking about SBF, as he prepared for a private meeting with Gary Gensler, the chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission. We now know that Bankman-Fried was in the midst of executing a dual-pronged political and media strategy that looked to be one of the most ambitious political influence operations in recent memory. Now, we're going to have a video tomorrow that's going to talk a little bit about SBF and these crazy political contributions, so make sure to come back for that. Meanwhile, Bankman-Fried was schmoozing with and offering money to a group of self-styled policy professionals and political pundits whose unofficial seal of approval conferred an aura of intellectual seriousness on his project. Of course, we do know here, SBF was a huge political donor according to public records. He contributed more than $70 million. They actually believe the number now is over $100 million. You can see $40 million personally, $70 million on the behalf of his company, I believe. But the latest numbers, either way, whether those are together or they're separate, the numbers now are over $100 million. Mostly to Democrats and liberal-leaning groups. So we already know he's been doing that. And of course, we also know, by the way, that he had a lot of sketchy meetings. Time of his meetings with Gensler, Bankman-Fried was in the process of acquiring stake in the stock exchange IEX. It was joined by a group of FTX and IEX representatives to pitch a new SEC-approved crypto platform. They included a top FTX lawyer who had worked with Gensler and who had reportedly bragged about his access to Gary. This meeting was coming in on the heels of a dinner Bankman-Fried arranged with SEC's incoming general counsel, Dan Bergovitz, who recently had to step down. But of course, things didn't go as planned for FTX and IEX crew at the meeting last March. They were evidently seeking agency approval for an alternative trading system, more lightly regulated alternative to national securities exchanges. Gensler, in his telling, simply rebuffed the group and said, "No, Gary, we don't believe you. One reason we don't believe you is because magically, when things start unfolding with FTX, which, by the way, this period, the last time that his calendar was updated would have been literally the first moments that I started going after SBF. September 20th is the first time I released the federal bit license plan, and it was out, and people knew what they were doing at that point. And I know this because Charles Hoskinson had researched into it, and he came back to me and said, "You are right with what you're saying about what he's doing behind the scenes." That was September 20th. The last time his calendar was updated was September 30th, 2022. Very, very interesting when you look at the timing of this. No, we do not believe you, Gary. Things did not go as planned. Gary Gensler said he rebuffed them. Absolutely false. He was working with them. According to Gensler, FTX was far too conflicted to satisfy the agency's regulations. It was not the first time that Gensler met with Bankman-Fried and other FTX representatives. You thought he rebuffed him the first time. He might have re-something them. There was also a previously disclosed session in late 2021, but when we spoke, it was unclear whether there had been any meetings between the two men. Gensler's calendars have not yet been fully released. I wonder why. Why, Gary? Where's your calendar, Gary? Let's see the G calendar. Let's see it. So, were there any other meetings between the two? No, he said, when I put the question to him directly. Gary Gensler says no. This is a man that obviously speaks out of the both sides of his mouth all of the time. We continue. The new Congress is looking again at crypto-specific legislation, what we're going to be in Washington talking about this week, maybe even while you're watching this video. Gensler believes SEC has all of the legal tools that it needs. Over the course of our discussion, he articulated a straightforward view of the agency's reach, that pretty much every sort of crypto transaction already falls under the SEC's jurisdiction, except spot transactions and Bitcoin itself and the purchase of sale or goods or services. So they're saying leverage trading is against the law as well, according to what Gary Gensler is saying. But of course, Gary Gensler would have to prove that through a lawsuit in a court. So even if that were the case, it would be years before there was resolution on that. He said, everything other than Bitcoin. What a typical freaking douche. Gensler told me you can find a website, you can find a group of entrepreneurs. He basically just goes through and says, hey, I can make an argument that somehow this is a security too. Anything is a security. I can make the argument for, Gary, I can make the argument for Windex. And like I said the other day, the Bitcoin maximalists love spraying Windex on your pants because they see themselves right in them. So according to the CFTC commissioner, Rostin Benham, he does claim that Bitcoin's the only crypto asset that can be viewed as a commodity during an invite-only event where they had a snitch who came out and said lots of different stuff. Benham's comments are quite a contrast to other statements where he said that Ether could also be viewed as a commodity, which is a clear SEC position that they have taken. Gary Gensler then goes to argue, basically that they can drop tokens overseas at first and contend or pretend it's going to take 6 months before they come back to the US. Guys, we already have precedent with the library credits token. None of what he's saying here is true. Literally none of what he's saying here is true. It's absolutely a lie. The library credits token secondary sales have already been said that they're not securities. What is this man talking about? It's insane. So what we've established is even if we have a token that's considered a security, it's going to be the token sale, not the tokens themselves. For now, the SEC has emerged as the industry. I want to highlight something right now. For now. This is changing, guys. This is changing. The SEC, well, they're about to get kneecapped. That's what I'll tell them. But they've emerged as the primary civil regulator. But guys, they don't do anything. All they're doing is filing lawsuits. They make no determinations. You have to understand, this whole entire article is Gary Gensler's opinion, which actually is less valuable than William Hinman speaking specifically on the behalf of the SEC, calling Bitcoin and Ethereum not commodities. XRP people don't go crazy on me. You guys know I'm not a fan of William Hinman, but that is the truth. Gensler said that a roadway or runway for crypto firms is getting shorter. What an idiot. The unstated premise of the SEC's current enforcement push appears to be that if the government can broadly stigmatize the industry and market participants, then ordinary people might think long and hard about whether to hold these assets in any form. This is what they want, guys. This article, or this right here, this document, Joint Statement on Crypto Asset Risk to Banking Organizations. This is all about how the SEC, this is from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, this is how the SEC, the CFTC, and the OCC can all work together to get people to not be interested in cryptocurrency investing. That's the scam. This is what they want. I hate to tell them, the Pandora's box has been opened. They are going after staking. We already know that. But remember, this is all part of the banking plan to make USDC the CBDC, not just of the United States, but of the world. USDC, Circle, Coinbase, Goldman Sachs, Gary Gensler, they're all heavily involved in this plan to make USDC the currency of the world. The only question is, are we going to let them do that? And I got one word for Gary. No, we're not. Actually, that was 3 words. You take all 3 of those to the bank, which I know you go to every day to collect your paychecks. That's all I got. Be blessed. Good boy out.